The air crackled with tension, a palpable sense of urgency filling the room. Detective Cho addressed her team, her voice sharp and resolute, cutting through the silence like a knife. This is it, Operation Red Dragon. Months of planning, countless hours of surveillance, all leading to this moment. We take down the Serpent's Fang tonight, the notorious criminal syndicate that has terrorized the city for years. Her team, a mix of seasoned veterans and eager rookies, listened intently, each member understanding the gravity of the mission. Faces were etched with a mixture of determination and apprehension, the weight of their duty pressing heavily on their shoulders. The weight of the mission pressed down on them, a burden they were all too familiar with, yet never fully prepared for. Lives were at stake, innocent lives caught in the crosshairs of a ruthless criminal syndicate. The stakes had never been higher. Cho's gaze swept over each member, her eyes lingering on Alvarez, her second in command, a man she trusted implicitly. Alvarez, a man who had seen his fair share of darkness, nodded slowly, his face a mask of grim resolve. He had been through countless operations, but this one felt different. Finally, her gaze settled on Yoon-suk, their informant, his face pale and drawn. He was their inside man, the one who had risked everything to provide them with crucial information. He avoided her eyes, his body trembling slightly. The fear was evident, but so was the courage it took to stand there. Cho knew the risks Yoon-suk was taking, the burden of betrayal he carried. He had turned his back on the syndicate, and now his life was in their hands. The team exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. They were ready, but the uncertainty of the night ahead loomed large. Each member checked their gear one last time, the cold metal of their weapons a stark reminder of the reality they faced. Time was running out. The clock ticked down, each second bringing them closer to the moment of truth. With a final nod from Cho, the team moved out, their faces set with determination. Tonight, they would face the Serpent's Fang, and they would not back down. Later, Cho found Alvarez by the coffee machine, his brow furrowed in thought. The hum of the machine was the only sound in the otherwise silent break room. Alvarez's mind was racing, filled with the weight of the mission ahead. "You okay?" she asked, her voice low, almost a whisper. She could sense the tension radiating off him, the unspoken fears that clouded his mind. Alvarez sighed, running a hand through his tired eyes. The sleepless nights were catching up to him, and the pressure of the mission was becoming unbearable. "I don't like it, Cho, it's too risky. We're walking into a lion's den." His voice trembled slightly, betraying the fear he tried so hard to mask. "We don't have a choice," Cho said, her voice firm. "This operation has been months in the making. We have to stop them." Her determination was unwavering, a stark contrast to Alvarez's growing doubts. Meanwhile, Yoon-suk sat alone, his head in his hands. He could still hear the Serpent's Fang's threats, feel the phantom pain of their beatings. The memories haunted him, a constant reminder of the stakes. He was in too deep, yet there was no turning back. His life, his family's safety, depended on the success of this mission. Every decision weighed heavily on him, the fear of failure ever present. Cho found him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Yoon-suk," she said softly, "we're not going to let anything happen to you." Her words were a small comfort, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. He looked up at her, his eyes filled with fear and a flicker of hope. "I have to do this, detective, for my family." His voice was barely above a whisper, but the determination in his eyes was unmistakable. The mission was no longer just a duty, it was a lifeline, a chance to protect those he loved. The team gathered, their faces a mix of determination and anxiety. Each member knew the risks, but they also understood the importance of their mission. They had trained for this, prepared for every possible scenario, yet the unknown still loomed large. The mission plans lay spread out on the table, a detailed map marked with their strategy. Every line, every mark represented a step towards their goal, a move in the dangerous game they were about to play. With a final nod, the team solidified their resolve. They were ready to face the dangers ahead, united in their purpose. The doubts and fears would not hold them back. They were a team, and together, they would succeed. The team huddled around a table, maps and surveillance photos spread out before them. The air was thick with tension and anticipation, each member fully aware of the gravity of the situation. They had been working tirelessly for weeks, gathering intel and piecing together the puzzle that would lead them to their target. Cho pointed to a building complex on the outskirts of the city. "This is our target," she said, her voice steady but intense. The building was heavily fortified, a stronghold for the criminal syndicate they had been tracking. This is it, the Serpent's Fang's headquarters, the place where all their operations were coordinated, the nerve center of their criminal empire. It was a daunting task, but the team was ready. "We go in quiet," Cho explained, her voice calm and measured. "Stealth is our best weapon. We can't afford to alert them before we have the upper hand." She outlined the plan with precision, leaving no room for error. "Alvarez, you and your team will secure the perimeter. Make sure no one gets in or out without our say-so." The perimeter team nodded, understanding the critical nature of their role. Yun-suk will lead us to the target, the dragon's lair, their inner sanctum. This was where the leaders of the Serpent's Fang would be, and capturing them was the key to dismantling the entire operation. Each member received their assignments, their faces grim but determined. They had trained for this moment, and now it was time to put their skills to the test. The weight of their mission was heavy, but so was their resolve. They knew the risks, but they also knew the importance of their mission. Failure was not an option. The city had suffered enough, and it was up to them to bring an end to the terror. The Serpent's Fang had terrorized the city for too long. Their reign of fear and violence had left scars on the community, and the team was determined to heal those wounds. It was time to end their reign. The team geared up, each member double-checking their equipment and mentally preparing for the task ahead. They were ready to face whatever awaited them. "Remember," Cho said, her gaze meeting each of theirs, "we're a team." Her words were a reminder of their unity and strength. They had trained together, fought together, and now they would face this challenge together. We watch each other's backs. In this line of work, trust and teamwork were everything. They knew they could rely on each other no matter what. No one gets left behind. It was more than a rule. It was a promise. They would all come back, or none of them would. This mission was about more than just taking down a criminal syndicate. It was about protecting each other. Her words hung in the air, a promise and a prayer. The team took a moment to reflect, each member drawing strength from their leader's resolve. They were ready. It was time to execute the plan and bring justice to their city. The hours leading up to the operation were a blur of activity. Weapons were checked and rechecked, comms tested, and gear meticulously inspected. The air thrummed with nervous energy, the silence punctuated by the clatter of equipment and the murmur of last-minute instructions. Cho watched her team, her heart swelling with pride and a touch of fear. They were the best of the best, each one handpicked for their skills and courage. But this mission? This was different. This was personal. She adjusted her holster, the weight of her weapon a familiar comfort. Tonight, they walked into the belly of the beast. Tonight, they fought for justice, for the innocent, for their lives. Section 5. Going dark, nightfall. The city lights blurred into streaks of color as the unmarked vans sped through the desolate streets. Inside, the team rode in silence, their faces illuminated by the glow of their comms. Cho could feel the tension radiating from her team, their breaths shallow and quick. She took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm, to stay focused. One mistake, one wrong move, could cost them everything. As they approached the target, she gave the signal. The vans rolled to a stop, swallowed by the shadows of the abandoned warehouses. "This is it," Cho whispered, her voice barely audible. "Move in." Section 6. Undercover. Yun-suk, his face pale but resolute, led the way, his steps hesitant yet determined. He wore the mask of fear well, but Cho could see the tremor in his hands, the fear in his eyes. She stayed close, her hand hovering near her weapon, ready to act at a moment's notice. They navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the warehouse, the air thick with the smell of mildew and fear. Armed guards patrolled the hallways, their faces grim and alert. Cho could feel her heart pounding in her chest, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Each step brought them closer to the dragon's lair, closer to their target, closer to ending the Serpent's Fang's reign of terror. Section 7. The Sting. The heavy steel door swung open, revealing a dimly lit room, smoke swirling in the air. Men sat around a table, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of a single bulb. At the head of the table sat a figure shrouded in shadow, his voice a low growl. The dragon. Yun-suk cleared his throat, his voice barely a whisper. "I have the information you requested." The dragon leaned forward, his eyes glinting in the dim light. "Let's see it then." Yun-suk's hand trembled as he reached into his pocket, his eyes darting towards Cho. This was the signal. This was their chance. Section 8. Betrayal. Cho and her team stormed the room, weapons drawn. "Police! Nobody move!" The room erupted in chaos. Chairs clattered, men scrambled for cover, and gunfire erupted, the air thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder. The dragon roared in anger, his hand reaching for a weapon concealed beneath the table. But Cho was faster. She lunged, her body slamming into his, sending his gun clattering across the floor. A struggle ensued, a desperate dance of life and death. The dragon, fueled by rage and adrenaline, fought back with surprising strength. But Cho was relentless, her years of training kicking in. Section 9. Chaos and gunfire. Alvarez and his team had secured the perimeter, but the fight was far from over. Gunfire echoed through the warehouse as the Serpent's Fang, caught off guard but not defeated, fought back with a ferocity that surprised even Cho. She could hear Alvarez barking orders, his voice a steady presence amidst the chaos. "Hold the line, we've got them outnumbered." But the Serpent's Fang were fighting for their lives, their desperation making them even more dangerous. Cho knew they had to end this quickly, before more lives were lost. Section 10. Aftermath. The warehouse, once a hive of criminal activity, now lay silent, the air thick with the smell of gunpowder and the stench of fear. The floor was littered with the bodies of fallen criminals, their reign of terror finally at an end. Cho stood amidst the aftermath, her chest heaving, her ears ringing. She surveyed the scene, her gaze lingering on the body of the dragon, his eyes staring vacantly at the ceiling. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see Alvarez, his face grim but relieved. "It's over, Cho, we got them." Section 11. A New Day. The sun rose over the city, casting a golden glow on the streets below. Cho stood at her desk, looking out at the awakening city, the events of the night before replaying in her mind. It had been a close call, too close for comfort, but they had succeeded. The Serpent's Fang was no more. Justice had been served. She thought of Yoon-suk, safe now, reunited with his family. He had risked everything to help them, and she was eternally grateful. Cho took a deep breath, the weight of the badge heavy on her chest. There would be other cases, other dangers. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of peace. The city was safe, and that was all that mattered.